Hey, this is Stephen Rothberg. I am the founder of College Recruiter and the co-host of the Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast. We've got a very special episode here today. As you can see from the wonderful flags behind us, we've got a high-ranking official in the U.S. government, Keith Sonderling. He's the Commissioner of the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunities Commission, EEOC, for those who like acronyms, which everybody in the federal government does. And also, I am joined by my co-host, Peter Zollman. Peter, do you want to tell people a little about yourself, and we'll dive in?
I'm with the AIM Group. It's an acronym for never mind. And we do recruitment marketplace consulting, conferences, and content. Falls under the latter C. And let's get started. AI, hottest topic maybe on the planet right now, and it's going to have huge impact in all sorts of areas, but recruitment, employment, finding people. What does the EEOC have to look at, worry about, pay attention to, and by extension, all of the people who might fall into bad traps?
Well, thank you both for having me. I really appreciate it. So yes, this is the hottest topic out there now. If you are alive, you see that AI is everywhere, but we've been looking at this for a while at the EEOC because whether you're aware of it or not, AI has been involved in the life cycle of employment, the employment relationship for years. The entire job life cycle has had AI in it. AI writes job descriptions, screens resumes, chats with applicants, conducts job interviews, predicts if an employee will accept an offer, predicts what their salary should be, tracks their productivity, assesses them, and then in some cases even tells them they're fired. And this is not a 2023 new thing. For years, there's been vendors trying to sell HR departments all this different type of technology related to their daily job in HR. And they're saying that, hey, this AI is going to make everything you do, HR professionals, from recruiting to hiring to firing, more efficient, economic, and effectively. And a lot of them are coming in basically saying, we are also promising that our programs are going to help you with diversity, equity, and inclusion by mitigating workplace bias. So now with the current state of the market, it's no longer a question for companies, are you going to use AI in HR? It's how are you going to use it and for what purpose are you going to use it? And what we care about is how are you going to use it in accordance with our long-standing civil rights laws in the United States? Because as you both know, some of the most fundamental rights we have in this country is to enter and thrive in the workforce without being discriminated against it. So the big question is, how is AI going to affect all of that?
Yeah, I love that, Commissioner Sonderling, because I think there's this perception that all of these laws, regulations, what we're talking about, that's all brand new.
Oh,
and a lot of this stuff is 70 years old, right?
That's right. Our agency was created in the 1960s out of the civil rights movement. And, it's our job here to make sure that everyone who's using this technology understands that the same laws apply equally to you as they do if you're using AI or a robot or any other kind of technology to make these decisions, as you have with HR professionals using a pen and paper since the 1960s. And that's the message we're trying to get across with all the confusion out there of how do we regulate ChatGPT? What is the future of AI laws going to be? For our perspective at the EEOC, all those conversations are important. For right now, all the uses that companies are using AI, which I just explained, all of our laws apply equally to them. And that cannot be lost in this equation.
You were in Amsterdam. There was a big discussion globally of how governments worldwide are approaching AI, how the challenges of implementing the standards. What are you hearing from the rest of the world where there are also concerns? They may not have the EEOC, but they have lots of laws and regulations and so forth. Differences or all the same concerns?
Well, it's not just, foreign governments as well. It's states, cities like New York City or other states like California also looking to regulate in this area as well. And there's just so many different approaches of how to do this. For the EU, they're taking an approach of a risk-based approach. So they're saying the use of employment and AI is going to be in the highest risk category possible. So you're going to have to do robust audits and disclosures before you're using it. The city of New York is also putting requirements on that if you're using AI, you have to do these pre-deployment audits every year by an independent party, and you're going to have to give notice to the employees using it. So there's so many different ways to look at how to regulate this. And it's going to be very difficult for employers that operate nationally, globally, to deal with all these very complex different regulations that are being proposed. But from our perspective at the federal government, we have to look at every single use. Unlike certain states or cities that are only looking at certain uses of it, we have to look at every single use of the employment life cycle from A to Z and apply our longstanding laws, whether it's Title VII, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Age Discrimination Act, it all applies equally. So we have to stay focused for the laws on the books now and not be distracted that there aren't any laws that apply, because there are.
Yeah, it's a great point. And so one of the other things that we've been seeing in our industry, job boards, recruitment marketplaces, is for a very long period of time, the industry is 25 years old, more or less. For the very long time, I think the majority of owner operators, managers of job boards have sort of viewed us as being akin to the newspaper, but online instead of in print, right? We didn't do any screening. We didn't do any selection. Employer ran an ad with us. Candidate applied, maybe on the job board, maybe on the employer site, and that was sort of it. What we're seeing, both Peter and I, is an increase in the number of job boards, recruitment marketplaces that are using AI, that are using machine learning to help rank candidates, to help even do selection. Hey, 200 people applied. These are the 5 best. Where does that fit in with the EEOC? Like, how do you regard that? Are we still just a job board? Are we now an employment agency? Where's that? Where's that line?
This is really, when you talk about bringing up new issues, here's where new issues is. So just taking a step back, the EEOC has jurisdiction generally over, thinking about it, 3 parties: employers, employment agencies like staffing agencies, and unions. That's been very long established in Title VII since the 1960s. Everyone understands. Now we're seeing a blurring of these roles when you have AI tech vendors coming into play. And at what point does an AI vendor become an actual employer or a staffing agency under our laws, when they're making the absolute hiring decision, when they're making the final recommendation who to hire, opposed to how it traditionally was, saying, here's a job advertisement, here's everyone who applies, you are making the decision. So as these programs get more advanced, the lines are absolutely starting to blur. But at the end of the day, from the federal law enforcement purposes, we will look to the employer who makes the decision whether to hire somebody using AI, whether to not hire somebody using AI, to whether to determine somebody's bonus using AI, or to fire somebody using AI. The vendor is not going to have that liability there, because at the end of the day, we're looking at the employer who makes that employment decisions. Now, for job advertisements, it's a little different, because you go to a staffing agency or employment agencies to say, hey, I want a candidate that looks like this or sounds like this or has this background. You send that to me. And then that staffing agencies will say, well, here's the exact person you've asked for. And our longstanding civil rights laws apply to that equation, just saying, you can't use a third party to discriminate when they're making that decision. But that's been unique to staffing agencies, where a lot of the job boards and recruitment programs for decades, whether it's been in print or even online, a lot of it was just saying, employer, give me the qualifications you want, and we're going to put it out there to our vast network. And whoever comes through, we will just give them to you, and then you will make the decision. And then the staff, the people posting the job boards are truly like publishers, newspaper advertisements. The EEOC has made many, many rulings on that. But the blurred line now is when these job boards are starting to integrate their own AI. And the job boards are starting to use artificial intelligence to rank candidates to say, this is actually the best candidate here. So what point are they actually making the employment decision there, and liability is going to be shared? That's a very novel issue, but it's certainly something that job posting boards need to be cognizant of as they're doing this. Are they now turning themselves into an employment agency, a staffing agency, because they're making that ultimate decision for that joint liability with the employer? So, that's certainly a new issue we're starting to look at as well at the commission.
Well, something for the job boards to beware of. I'll ask you final question, and then I'll tell you a quick story that I heard at a conference. Pardon me. So the good stuff about AI that you see from an EEOC perspective.
I see a lot of it. I see a way to really help us meet our mission to promote equal opportunity in the workplace. AI can really help employers take that skills-based approach that they've been looking for by masking some of those protected characteristics, like is the candidate of a certain gender, national origin, does the candidate have a disability or not? All things the EEOC says you are not allowed to make an employment decision based on, but things that are kind of hard to ignore when somebody walks into the room for an interview, or you look at somebody's resume and you see, a certain potential time they graduated college for their age, or associational characteristics with religion or national origin. Once you see that, the person's disabled, the person's pregnant, it's hard to forget that. But AI doesn't know that, and they will actually look through the resumes or even conduct the first rounds of interviews to people who have historically not been able to get in the job market because of those barriers, because of those initial bias, and actually have employers take that approach that we want to hire somebody based upon their skills, and we can't even know or see all these protected categories. It could also help with job advertisements by going through them and debiasing some of them. The words in job advertisements have really historically prevented certain people of certain backgrounds from not applying. And there's a lot of studies that women are less likely to apply to more aggressive job advertisements than men. Well, there's AI that goes out there and tells you each word in there and saying, if you change this word, your applicants may increase by this gender, by this national origin, by this much. So there's a lot of potential, really great things that AI can do to eliminate bias, eliminate the human bias, and really allow employers to find the best candidates based upon their skills and nothing else.
Well, mixed bag, but on balance, there are probably lots of good opportunities and lots of good things about AI. And over the next 5 years and 20 years, we'll learn more about it. So I was walking around a conference a few weeks ago, 160 vendors, and guy walks up to me and says, all of these vendors say they use AI, but 99.3% of them are lying. And I said, 99.3%, that's pretty specific number. How did you know that number is actually lying? They're not really using AI. He said, I asked ChatGPT.
Well, that's a whole nother story. What is AI versus what is basic computer programming versus, which is, a big question out there, but that's a very, very funny answer.
We're running out of time, but we really appreciate you joining us. And I'm sure people will have lots more questions about AI, ChatGPT, status of employers, status of job boards. And we're just going to give them your email address and phone number.
No. In all seriousness, I really appreciate this platform. It helps me get out there and talk to the people on the ground who are actually making these very tough decisions about how to integrate AI, if you're going to integrate AI, for what purpose, and how do you comply with it? And then how do you not upend decades and decades of job advertisements, decades and decades of recruitment by using AI when you're actually using it to help and diversify your workforce, but some of the potential negative ramifications. I need to be part of this conversation. You're the ones out there either creating the products, wanting to buy the products, or using it. Let me know what questions you need answered so we can actually help you integrate this to promote equal employment opportunity in the workplace, which is our mission here at the EEOC.
I think that was a commitment to come back in 3 or 4 months, and we'll take it as that.
Sounds good.
Keith Sonderling,
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Stephen, have a good one, and we will see you next time on the Inside Recruitment. I can't even get the name right. Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast. Thanks.